Ayo, what's good reader fam? For today's video, I decided to read some books that made it onto Booktuber's Worst Books of 2018 list. So today, I'm going to be talking about those books and comparing my thoughts to their thoughts, and see if they match up or if they don't at all. I'm not really sure what to expect doing this, I just kind of thought it would be an interesting thing to do. We're all different readers, we all have different tastes, we have different genres that we gravitate towards, different writing styles we prefer, and I just thought that this would make for an interesting video. For all of these books, I ended up listening to the audiobook, which I'm actually thankful that I decided to do that, which you will see why that is as this video progresses. I ended up choosing 3 booktubers and 3 books. I only watched one of their video all the way through. When I watched that person's video, I was like, oh, I have this idea. Light bulb! I knew that already going into these books, I would have a bias. Like, I couldn't help but feel going into these books that I probably wouldn't end up liking them. But I wanted to figure out my feelings first before I fully watched their videos, so I just kind of skimmed over their videos, tried to find a book title that I was kind of interested in, picked a book, read it, and made my own opinion before I heard their opinions. It's been a long time since I did watch the one video, so I feel like I shouldn't have a hard time kind of separating my feelings from their feelings. I won't be affected by their opinions. So without further ado, let's get started. The first booktuber that I chose is one of my favorite people, and that is Elias. Elias creates lots of great bookish content, not just your average bookish content, but he brings in the aesthetic. You want good looking videos? He's got you covered. 10 out of 10, I recommend. He's one of my favorite people, even though we're awful at staying in touch. From his list, I chose the book Cheerleaders by Kayla Thomas. I had previously read Little Monsters by Kayla Thomas, and I loved that book, so I figured that I would give this one a go. This book is about how all these cheerleaders have died in different ways. There was a wreck that killed 2 of them, a murder that killed the other 2, and then one that took her own life after everything happened. We follow the sister of that girl, Monica. It's been 5 years since all of this has happened, but she just can't seem to let everything go. When she comes across evidence that there might be more to the story, she can't help but get herself involved and seek closure with the whole situation. My thoughts. I loved Little Monsters by Kayla Thomas, so going into this book, I was hyped, I was pumped. I can't say I hated it because I didn't, but I was definitely pretty disappointed with this book, which is why I can understand why this book did end up on Elias's least favorite books list. The main character is rather frustrating, specifically with her personality. She's what I like to call fake woke, and she herself was calling other people fake woke in the book, and yet she herself was walking down that path. I wanted to be like, friend, you can call everyone around you fake woke, but if I gave you a mirror, you'd realize you're the same way. I was also very surprised by some of the unrealistic scenes that popped up in this book. Like, things happened that people would never ever be able to get away with, and yet the thing that the main character does to get some information regarding the murders just goes a little too smoothly. They don't have any issues or run into any roadblocks along the way. Yeah, a little on the unrealistic side. I get that it's fiction, but it actually would have added some drama to the book had they gotten caught, had things not gone so smoothly. And that kind of leads me to another one of my issues with this book, and that is the fact that everything just kind of comes together at the end really nicely. There aren't really any big issues or big setbacks. I feel like this book just kind of felt like a book that I've read before. It didn't really push to bring anything new to this genre, which is what I felt like Little Monsters achieved. But going off of that, at the same time, that's okay. Not every book has to come in and be a game changer for that genre. I think that was more so just like an expectation I had going in and kind of being underwhelmed. So while this wasn't the most shock-worthy book, it still was a really solid murder mystery. It was easy to read and it was a fun journey getting to the end. There was even one storyline that I did find surprising because there are a few threads that the author is working to bring together, and one of them did surprise me. Another positive thing that I have to say about this book is that I really liked the character reactions. Oftentimes I feel like characters are in these really dark and heavy situations and they just are like, oh, it's fine, everything's fine. Like, they feel the darkness for like maybe one page and then they're like, oh, everything's fine, let's keep working to figure this out. But they never really stay in those feelings. It just kind of passes a little too quickly. And this one, you really see the effect of the situation on the characters, and I really appreciated that. Overall, I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. Now I'm going to compare my thoughts to Elias's thoughts. First up, he felt it was far-fetched, which I obviously agreed with. Some of the things that happened just didn't make sense. There's no way they could have gone away with certain things that happened. He didn't like that it was less grittier and darker than her other book. While I didn't mind that it wasn't super dark and gritty, I do agree with the fact that it kind of felt weirdly light and fluffy, like it was like a light and fluffy contemporary story. Whereas comparing this book to Little Monsters had a very dark tone to it. But I kind of find this to be a positive thing, especially with the fact that she can kind of deliver books that have different feelings to them. He was also disappointed with the outcome. I agree with this one. It's not even that I saw what was coming, it's just that the ending happened and I was like, okay, we solved the mystery. Neat. It didn't wow me like I wanted it to. And it had the potential to do that. There were definitely some things things that she could have done to have made it more of a surprising ending. She could have really knocked it out of the park, but it was just fine. He also said that the writing was a letdown for him. I didn't really have a problem with the writing, so we kind of disagree there. But finally, he ended his thoughts saying that he did feel like this book is a good intro to the thriller genre. I definitely agree with this, not that I have much experience at all with thrillers, but I could see this one being a good one for people to try to get into this genre. Next up, we have another one of my favorite humans, and that is Kayla from Books and Lala. Kayla reads so much, and it's not only that she reads a lot, but she reads a wide variety of books, and I aspire to read like her. She also does a great job of giving her audience a variety of videos, so you never know what video she's got cooking next, which is something that I really like seeing on BookTube channels. The book I chose from her least favorite books of 2018 video is Cross Her Heart by Sarah Pinborough. In this book, we follow a mother and her daughter, and we also follow one of the mother's co-workers, but I'm just gonna talk about the mom and daughter because they're kind of the center of the story. Both of them carry with them a lot of secrets. Lisa, the mother, is super overprotective, but you can kind of tell that something's up with that, like there's a reason for that, like maybe something in her past. And her daughter Ava, I feel like the best way I can put it is that she's going through a rebellious phase. After a situation involving her daughter goes public, it could ruin this safe new life that Lisa has created for herself. It ends up leaving her with no choice but to face the past. My thoughts. So I'm not super into the thriller murder mystery genre, so going into this book I kind of thought that I would find it surprising or shocking because I'm just not used to this genre. And when you're getting used to a genre, I feel like those first few books that you pick up you really like. But this book had me going, really? This is absurd? Again, I know it's fiction, I know it can't always be realistic, but there is just no way that a certain thing that happened in this book would have gone unnoticed because of very clearly obvious reasons. I'm trying to be super vague right now because spoilers, but man oh man, I was just a little flabbergasted because you know what? I was sold on the beginning portion of this book. The storyline of the mom's past, I was sold on. I liked how things were unraveling, but then we get to the payoff and it is so underwhelming and so disrespectful. I mean, props to the author for taking me on an unexpected journey, but I also feel let down majorly. I mean, it was still shocking because I didn't expect that, but I didn't expect that for obvious reasons. It just made that journey of getting to that point feel kind of pointless. My only real other critique of this book is the fact that I felt like it was kind of all over the place, and some of the plot devices that she used early on to benefit the story were just kind of too obvious and in your face. I don't know if I'm making sense with that, but I don't feel like you have to make things such a big hurrah in order to push the story forward. I'm really struggling to think of anything positive to say. Like, I really liked learning about the mom's past. The characters were okay. The mom was a little personality deprived, but overall they were fine. And I was shocked, but it wasn't like a good shock. I was more in a state of, you've gotta be kidding me. I think overall I would give this book like a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Now I'm gonna compare my thoughts with Kayla's thoughts. First up, she didn't like that the synopsis basically told you some of the big things that happen in the book, which I'm glad that I didn't read the synopsis because I would have been even more disappointed with this book apparently. Because at least going into this book I had no idea what I was getting into. She said that the mom's past was the most interesting, which I agree. Oh my gosh. The most interesting part of the story. The stuff that was happening in the current time was a bit of a snooze fest. Her next point is the spoiler, but it's basically the same thing that I had a huge issue with this book for. It's good to know that the absurd thing that I hated was also hated by Kayla. And her last point is that the villain is LGBTQIA, which I believe her reasoning for this is the fact that that's kind of overdone and can be harmful, which I'm glad she brought that up because I didn't even think about that after reading the book, but now I see that issue and why that's a problem, so thanks for bringing that up, Kayla. Lastly, I have Lucy from Lucy Reads. This is a new to me booktube channel, but I really like her channel so far. I really like what she's bringing to the table. She's got some great discussions, recommendations, and I really enjoy her travel vlogs. I picked a book from her worst books of 2018 video, and that is The Price Guide to the Occult by Leslye Walton. I honestly don't even know how to describe this book, but I will try my best. It's an urban fantasy story about this girl, and her mom is like a witch basically, and she herself has supernatural powers, but she just wants to live a normal mundane life like everybody else. Her mom has now written a book and it's super successful. She's everywhere doing interviews and getting that media play. There's a curse of some sort that comes into play. There's a lot involved in the mom's past that's kind of sketchy, and madness just ends up happening. That's the best way I can describe this book, honestly. I'm sorry for that bad description. My thoughts. I think my best word to describe this book would be scatterbrained. There was a lot going on with it, and unfortunately I didn't care enough. I think something that I really struggled with this book is the fact that I just couldn't sink myself into it. I just couldn't get myself into the situation, and maybe that was because of the audiobook. Maybe had I read it with my eyes I would have enjoyed it bit more. But because I couldn't sink myself into the story, I couldn't root myself into the strangeness of the book. And it is strange, and I like strange books, but it didn't feel like there was much purpose to the strangeness. If you get what I'm saying by that, like, it didn't really enhance the story. It was just like a part of the story. I also just could not attach myself to the characters, which is a really big thing for me. Like, characters are vital in books. If I can't get connected to the characters, then I will struggle my way through the book. I did find aspects of them interesting, but they just weren't well-rounded characters and didn't have very distinct voices. For the most part, I was also just kind of like drowning in this wave of confusion in this story, which I get it's kind of supposed to be that way. Like, you're not supposed to kind of understand everything till later on, I guess. But if I'm confused to the point of not wanting to read the book, then that's a red flag. There were some good things. I did like the beginning portion of the book. It has a nice hook you in with curiosity feel to it, like right at the beginning. And I did like how the opening played a very important role in the story. So it did have some nice groundwork. I also really liked the tone that the author created with the writing. Like, it felt like while reading this, there was like a gray cloud over the book. Doesn't mean there was necessarily a gray cloud described in the book, but that's just kind of like the eerie, creepy vibe this book gave off. And that was pretty nice. I think overall, I would give this book a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Now I'm gonna compare my thoughts to Lucy's thoughts. First up, she felt like the first half of the story was really slow, and then things just kind of escalated a little too quickly towards the end. She would have preferred it all kind of developing at the same speed and not be so out of whack. I agree with this because the beginning portion was so slow, and there was just like a point where things just kind of switched and it was like, yeehaw! It was like somebody was going the speed limit, and then out of nowhere they're like slamming their foot on the gas and going, let's get it, kick it into high gear. It was like the story was going at the slow pace, and then just out of nowhere it was like, let's get this over with. Her next point is that the characters weren't well done, they were kind of one-dimensional, and she felt like she barely got to know them. We are definitely on the same page for this one, that's for sure. I needed more from those characters. They could have been great characters too. They just needed a little bit more to their personalities revealed, and that would have made it so much better. Next up, she didn't like the unnecessary love interest, and she felt it was insta-love. I think I didn't mention it because I just didn't care. I feel like I just kind of block out insta-love. Now when it happens, I'm like, it's happening. I can't do anything about it. I'll let them live their lives. And lastly, she just felt like the climax was weird. You see, this is why I kind of felt like everything was just all over the place, because that ending was just a lot. And my problem was at that point, I really didn't care. Everything was happening way too quickly, and I was just like, okay, sure, let it happen. It's happening. Okay, so that's it for this experiment. I'm actually really surprised that a lot of my thoughts ended up matching up with these booktubers' thoughts. I really thought that maybe, just maybe, I'd end up really liking one of these books, or I would have at least had some different negative opinions, but for the most part, we all kind of had the same feelings. I forgot to mention this, but the reason why I'm glad that I just got these all as audiobooks is because if I were to have physical copies of them, I would probably unhaul all of them. It was actually pretty fun doing this too, because I feel like it kind of pushed me to read stuff that I wouldn't normally read. Like, I wouldn't normally read a thriller or a murder mystery. I do want to kind of get more into those genres, so this was a good way for me to kind of push myself to read those books, even though I didn't end up loving them. That sucks. I'm apparently a mess and I don't know how to finish off my videos anymore, but I meant to say I will also be linking all these booktubers down below in the description. Make sure you go and subscribe to them and support them. They're all fantastic channels and I highly recommend checking them out. Anyway, that's it for this video. You guys should let me know down below in the comments your thoughts on this. Did you read any of the books that I mentioned in this video? What were your thoughts on them? Did you like them? Did you not like them? I'm super respectful when it comes to this kind of stuff, so if you liked any of these books, don't feel ashamed. Like I said at the beginning of this video, we're all different people, we all have different opinions, and all those different thoughts and opinions are welcome here. Also, let me know down below in the comments if you've already read a book that's going to end up on your worst books of 2019 list. I'm very curious. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I hope your day is bright and that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye! -oh!